So we are now on the scalar product of two vectors. So the scalar or dot product of two vectors is defined as the product of the magnitudes of the two vectors multiplied by the cosine angle between them. Let's say example, we have here vector 1 and we have here vector 2. So the value, so to get the scalar or dot product of our two vectors, vector 1 that vector 2 is equal to, let's say this is syempre vector, merong arrow sa taas. So sabi doon, magnitude daw nung ating dalawang the multiplication of the two vectors. So v1, the magnitude of vector 1 times the magnitude of vector 2 times the cosine of the angle between them. So how do we get the magnitude of a vector? So to get the magnitude of our vector, we just simply, let's say we have here vector 1. We just square root, let's say, let's say we have vector here, AI plus BJ plus CK. So to get the magnitude of our vector V, we just simply square root the value of our A's and squared it. Also, the B squared plus C squared. And that's how you get the magnitude of a vector. And to get the value of our our two vectors, the value of the scalar product of our two vectors. Let's say we have here on our lecture, vector A has a 1i plus a2 j plus a3k. And vector B, b1i plus b2j plus b3k. So in order to get the scalar dot product of our two vectors, so A dot B is equal to yung A1 is ita-times natin sa lahat ng values ng ating B. So A1, B1 times isama natin yung I dot I plus again A1 B2 times I dot J plus A1 B3 I dot K. Then next, yung ating A2 B1 J dot I plus A2 B2. Natin ilagay dyan, dito. A2, B2, J, J. Plus A2, B3, J, K. Plus A3 na. B1, K dot I. Plus A3, B2, K dot J. Then plus A3, B3, K dot K. So dito sa atin, sabi doon, 'di ba, the value, sabi doon, the value of our A dot B is equal to AB cosine the angle. If we have here I, vector I, and also vector I, so I times I cosine, so yung angle nung I times I, if we have here J, I, and K, so I times I, yung angle niya is hindi nagbago, so ibig sabihin 0. So the value of I times I cos 0 that's 1. Sorry. 1. Kasi sabi doon kanina, 'di ba? A unit vector has a magnitude of 1 with no units. Ito, vector. Unit vector I and times the unit vector I. So 1 times 1 cosine yung angle ng ating I times I. So, ibig sabihin, hindi nagbago. So, 0 yon. So, that's the unit vector I dot I is equal to 1. And then, if we have different unit vector, let's say we have unit vector I dot unit vector J is equal to 1 times 1 cosine the angle between them. So if we have here unit vector I and unit vector J, so yung angle between them is 90 degrees. So ibig sabihin ng ilalagay nating angle is 90 degrees. So I dot J is equal to, the cosine of 90 degrees is equal to 0. So all values of different unit vectors is equal to 0. So, ang matitira dyan sa ating A dot B is equal to A1 B1 plus A2 B2 plus A3 B3. So that's the value the scalar product of our two vectors, the vector A and the vector B. And to get the cosine theta, or the angle between our two vectors, the angle of our two vectors, let's say again we have here vector A and vector B. So to get the value of our two vectors, we had the formula of our scalar dot product that vector A dot vector B is equal to the magnitude of the two vectors A and B cosine the angle between them. So for the value of our vector A dot vector B, meron tayo kanina, di ba? Yung A1, B1 plus A2, B2 plus A3, B3. And for the value of the magnitude of our two vectors, we have the square root of A1 squared plus A2 squared plus A3 squared times the magnitude of our B, which is B1 squared plus B2 squared plus B3 squared times the cosine theta. So to get the value of our cosine theta, we just simply put this one sa baba nitong itong value nito. So A1 B1 plus A2 B2 plus A3 B3 all over the square root or the magnitude of the two vectors A1 squared plus A2 squared plus A3 squared times the square root of the vector B, B1 squared plus B2 squared plus B3 squared. And to get the value of our theta, we just simply arc cosine the value that we will get on this right side. And that's how you do the scalar dot product.